All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I finally have the opportunity and the time to cover a topic that I meant to delve into in depth when it first came to the forefront about 3 or 4 months ago. That being the world-famous comedian Kevin Hart being put under a great deal of affliction by his handlers and sponsors in Hollywood. Why is that? Because originally he was supposed to be the host of this year's Oscars. And for those of us who are in the know, we understand that the ceremony known as the Oscars is meant to be in veneration of Ptah, the creator god of ancient Kemet. He also goes by the name of pt.1, and that is the creator god as he's depicted with the erect phallus to convey fruitfulness, lust, creativity, etc. And it's also a carnal play on him being the creator god, because not only is he the quote-unquote originator or the craftsman, he's also the god of creativity in the arts, and also, of course, in the bedroom. That is why he became known as Pan in ancient Greece. And of course, Pan is the god of pederasty, meaning man-boy love. He's also one of the gods of music, at least the component of music that entails enrapturing the listener or enchanting the listener. That is why Pan is always depicted with the panpipes. Another aspect of Pan was as Orpheus. Basically all different names of so-called demigods or gods that's just talking about the same couple of people. The point being is this: the Oscars is a ceremony for witches, and Kevin Hart is a witch and a Luciferian. But it's also very apparent to me that Kevin Hart is rebellious when it comes to certain rituals or certain components of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system that is utilized as a method of worship or veneration for the creator god in Hollywood. And once again, the creator god is known by various names. Conventionally, we call the quote-unquote creator god today the Baphomet, which represents hermetic principles of bringing together opposites. That's why I tell many of you brothers that there is a war on the quote-unquote heterosexual man, especially the quote-unquote heterosexual black man. And there are various ways in which they wage that war, whether it be through the music, through the television, through certain quote-unquote movements like the homosexual movement, the lesbian movement, the transgender movement, even certain components now of the quote-unquote civil rights movement, where they're going out of their way to make sure that not only is the civil rights movement led by women, but preferably lesbian women, and they're assisted by homosexual men. The point being that they want any sign of real manhood or masculinity moved out the way. That brings us back to Mr. Kevin Hart. There seems to be some reticence on his part to fully succumb to the concept of public acceptance of quote-unquote homosexuality, because they basically shamed him into believing that he has to issue a series of public apologies to the extremely powerful homosexual platform and lobby in Hollywood, which basically signs the checks for everyone in Hollywood. But it has to be understood that many of the agendas that are being pushed publicly today have been going on in Hollywood since its inception in the 1910s and 1920s. It's just that now they want their witches to cast their spells on the masses, on the public. Once they're able to create a cult of personality around certain celebrities, they expect you to follow that celebrity and all of their beliefs. That's why it's very important that they cannot have someone like a Kevin Hart who has quote-unquote homophobic or anti-homosexual rhetoric on his social media. He has to scrub his social media. He has to appease them for what he stated in the past. And they're going to break him down publicly in the same way that he was broken down privately in order for him to start his road to quote-unquote fame in the first place. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Well, Kevin Hart's job hosting the 91st Academy Awards lasted just 2 days. The actor and comedian was announced as the host Tuesday afternoon. But overnight, Hart stepped down following an outcry over previous homophobic tweets and comments he made during stand-up routines nearly a decade ago. Anna Warner shows us how an Instagram video from Hart only made matters worse. Anna, good morning.
Good morning. Hosting the Oscars has always been one of the toughest jobs in Hollywood, but the criticism usually comes after the show. Less than an hour after Kevin Hart's announcement, a reporter posted screen grabs of the comedian's old...
Brothers, I want you guys to pay very close attention to the anchor here, Anna Warner. As we can see, she has on a necklace with the unfinished pyramid, representing the quote-unquote great work. They're trying to finish what Cush and Nimrod started, that being globalism, pansexuality, and magic, to communicate with the fourth dimension and pull energies and power from the fourth dimension to quote-unquote make themselves gods. I'm sure that many people will claim that I'm reading too much into things. That's okay. It's not my job to dumb down this channel to make people feel comfortable with what I'm saying. It's my job to say what needs to be said so that the brothers who are meant to understand can see what's going on to a higher degree.
Homophobic tweets, and from there, the backlash grew.
Everything about a raccoon says crime.
Kevin Hart is known for...
Not to digress, but some of you brothers may have heard the start of the joke that Kevin Hart was stating here. He says, everything about a raccoon says crime. For those of you who don't know, that is the genesis of the slur for so-called black people of coon. It has nothing to do with being subservient to the Caucasian. It has to do with the alignment in the minds of the white trash who first originated that analogy or that metaphor for so-called black people. That whenever they saw a so-called black person, that they were sneaky, that they were conniving, that they were almost magical in their ability to be clever and take things almost imperceptibly. That's how that slur originated, that slur of being a quote-unquote coon. To the Aboriginal and Native American tribes who were indigenous to the Americas, they always associated the raccoon with being a magical animal, very much akin to a crow, which is another animal that often is associated with so-called black people because of its wisdom and its craftiness and its ability to adapt and sneak around and its intellect, things of that nature. But the term coon, when applied to so-called black people, originated in the sentiment that the raccoon was always associated with trying to get away with things, trying to steal things.
His unique brand of comedy.
A raccoon came up to the glass doors, put his hand on the glass, saw me, shot at me twice.
And he's a fixture at the box office, starring in blockbuster hits like Jumanji.
We gotta go. I can't outrun those guys.
And the Ride-Along franchise.
You are what I say you are. Oh, God.
But just 2 days after he was announced as host of the Academy Awards, Kevin Hart dropped out, under fire for past homophobic comments on social media. On Twitter last night, he wrote, "I do not want to be a distraction. I sincerely..."
Some of you brothers may notice the shirt that Kevin Hart has on with all the eyes on it. That's meant to be a trigger for Kevin Hart to help him understand that he's always being watched. Kevin Hart is an asset in Hollywood, as all the major stars are. All the major stars must understand how to worship the GOAT God, and they must all understand that they are assets and they are there to be watched at all times. In order for them to proceed up the levels of the craft, they have to accept those conditions. Some of them are raised up in the craft. Some of them are brought in based on the feasibility of them being able to be used by the higher level aspects of the entertainment industry, which is almost purely Babylonian in its setup.
Really apologized to the LGBTQ community. It was an abrupt turn from just hours earlier.
I've said who I am now versus who I was then. I've done it.
When a defiant Hart took to Instagram to say he wouldn't apologize.
I'm not going to continue to go back and tap into the days of old when I moved on and I'm in a completely different space in my life.
The comedian faced intense...
Let me say this very quickly. Kevin Hart alleges that he's not going to keep apologizing to the LGBTQ community, quote-unquote community. Well, he will apologize in one way or another down the line, because he must show that he understands what his place is in Hollywood. One of the core tenets of the Babylonian Comedic Mystery School system is sexual fluidity. It has to be, because in the ancient world, the boys were called sodomites, or as they were rendered in the scripture, sodomites, meaning boy prostitutes. The young girls were also made to be whores or prostitutes for the mother goddess Ishtar. You understand? That's why I stated in the video that I did on Cardi B, in the Pepsi commercial that she did, the second one, not the first one, the second one, where she and the black male homosexual teach everyone in the diner how to make the pigeon sound. The young black male homosexual represented a sodomite, meaning a microcosm of the Bacchus, or Attis, Attis, who was sexually fluid and also a transgender. The priests of Cybele, who represented Attis, would castrate themselves, and they would wear makeup like women. You understand? So all of these are components of Hollywood today. That's why all of the top directors, what they do is they try to seduce the young boys who are trying to be actors. They try to seduce them into becoming catamites, spelled Catamite. A catamite is basically the lover of a grown man. And Kevin Hart must understand these aspects, and he's had to submit to them in order to get to the level that he's at. That's why so many people acted shocked when Quincy Jones came out and said that Richard Pryor had sex with, Marlon Brando. That's how it was back then. That's how it still is today. That's how it was in the 50s and the 40s and so on and so forth. Okay? That's how it was back then. There's no new thing under the sun.
Criticism this week after tweets surfaced from between 2009 and 2011 where he used the term gay as an insult and called people homophobic slurs.
One of my biggest fears is my son growing up and being gay.
He made similar comments.
Kevin Hart stated that one of his biggest fears is his son growing up and being gay. As you'll see here, in this show that he was performing in, he was wearing all black. And he tends to wear all black in many of his performances. And if you pay very close attention, you'll notice that most comedians, if it's a major performance, they're wearing all black. Why is that? Because they're witches. They're trying to convert the magic from within them. This was known as black magic. Black magic is the magic that comes from within you. The white magic, supposedly, is the magic that comes from the outside world. So if you pay very close attention, you'll notice that most of the quote-unquote top comedians, at least the ones who are pushed in the mainstream, they wear all black in their top performances. And not just the comedians, but also the singers, the rappers, etc. Because they're all witches, all of them. Understand the god of witches is Pan, the goat god. So therefore, if we understand that Pan is the god of the music industry and the acting world, why is that? It's because there are witches there. And I'm going to prove that later on in this video as we meticulously go through an episode of Real Husbands of Hollywood, an episode that Kevin Hart filmed a couple of years ago, where he's very blatantly telling you that he was forced to go through a re-indoctrination program to show his peers in Hollywood that he was going to show appropriate veneration and appropriate understanding of the importance of worshiping the goat god.
And in his 2010 stand-up special, Seriously Funny.
Every kid has a gay moment, okay? Every kid. But when it happens, you gotta nip it in the bud. You gotta stop it right there. Hey, stop! That's gay!
Hart was chosen as the awards ceremony faces a ratings slump. The show drew a record low 20.
Now, brothers, if you pay very close attention to this image right here, you'll see at the top it says awards show ratings slump. And right next to it, you have an image of the statuette of quote-unquote Oscar, or Asar, aka Ptah, and it's within the triangle. The upward triangle, of course, is for the pyramid, which is the delta, which itself represents the portal between the physical world and the spiritual world. In the ancient world, in ancient Kemet, they also had a ceremony where Pharaoh would hand out statuettes to award that time period's top craftsmen and artists and entertainers. There's nothing new under the sun. That's why all of the top entertainers, they report to the Oscars, they walk the red carpet, and they accept their Oscar if they're rendered to be good enough to receive it by the quote-unquote Academy of the Arts or the Grove of the Artists.
6.5 million viewers last year with host Jimmy Kimmel, a 20% drop from the year before.
Regardless, Academy,
Jimmy Kimmel is another high-level Luciferian and Kabbalist. But I'll be delving into him in a I'll be delving into that when I start to review certain episodes of LeBron James' show, The Shop.
thankful and appreciative of the opportunity. If it goes away, no harm, no foul.
In 2015, Hart was asked about his homophobic jokes by Rolling Stone magazine. He admitted he wouldn't tell them today because audiences are more sensitive now.
Well, he certainly could not tell any quote-unquote homophobic jokes today, because the gay enclave, or the homosexual level of Hollywood that stayed in the background back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, they don't have to do that anymore. They can show their power now. Even Eddie Murphy stated that many of the more famous jokes that he told in his legendary stand-up performances in Delirious and Raw, he wouldn't tell today. But it wouldn't make any sense for him to tell them, because for all intents and purposes, most people believe that Eddie Murphy is a pansexual anyway. So he would come off as a bit of a hypocrite, especially in light of the multitude of times that he was busted with a tranny.
Apology yesterday, he said his goal is to bring people together, adding much love and appreciation to the Academy. I hope we can meet again. Nora? All right.
Once again, brothers, I cannot stress this enough, because this person, Anna Warner, stated that Kevin Hart said to the Academy, much love and appreciation. The word Academy comes from the Greek word akademia. It means grove. So when they say things like the Academy of the Arts, they're talking about the witches who happen to practice the art known as acting, which really was created and set up as a method to retell the story of Nimrod, or as he was known in various cultures, Asar, or Marduk, or whatever certain names he was referred to as, Baal, Saturn, etc. So Kevin Hart is someone who they are going to get on the back end, because they don't even like a ripple in the ocean when it comes to the obeisance that they demand from the witches that they feel like they have empowered in Hollywood. Who are you to say that you're not going to keep apologizing if we want you to keep apologizing? So look for something to be revealed about Kevin Hart somewhere down the line in the near future. All right, man, peace. So, brothers, throughout the first half of this video, I've advanced the notion, at least from my perspective, that the reason why the superstar comedian Kevin Hart was not allowed to host this past year's Oscars is because he has not shown the appropriate amount of obeisance to the GOAT god Pan, who is the force that Hollywood believes drives its creativity aspect. I've laid out in other videos how the GOAT god represents creativity. So some of you brothers might want to look into that, whether the GOAT god is known as Khnum or Benebdejet or what have you. Even in the scriptures, he's known as Azazel, which literally means the GOAT god. That is the entity that they venerate in Hollywood, at least on the upper crust, the higher levels. In order for you to become a star or a superstar, you must show obeisance to the GOAT god, as well as that quote-unquote trinity that comes from the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system of the Father God, the Mother Goddess, and their son, who is conventionally known as Heru or Adonis or Tammuz. And that is where the issue with Kevin Hart comes in, because I think that he understands that he is bucked up against those stipulations to a certain degree, and he knows that he has to show publicly what he's actually about, at least for the sake of the Academy, to appease them, because they take that very seriously behind closed doors, believe it or not. So brothers, pay very close attention to what I'm going to show you here in this television show that Kevin Hart filmed about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago. I tried to make a video about this a while ago, and I was unable to. So now we're going to try to cover it from another angle using still shots just to illustrate my point. He's going to show you over the course of this episode who he must worship in order to be a superstar in the entertainment world. He's going to show you that he must bow down to the GOAT god and the Mother Goddess. And he's going to play, proverbially speaking, he's going to play Heru or Tammuz or Adonis, the god of vegetation. He's also known as Dumuzid, spelled D-U-M-U-Z-I-D. Okay? So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
You have a lot of time on your hands now. You're looking at 3 months of free time. So what are you going to do? Thinking you should probably relax and rejuvenate. Maybe read a book.
Now, brothers, pay very close attention for a moment, because what we're picking up in this episode, basically, Kevin's being told by his agent that he's going to have a lot of free time on his hands. Let's listen to how he answers, because in the way in which he answers, he's going to let the viewer know that the education that he has to achieve has nothing to do with what we know or what we would describe as an education, conventionally speaking. He does not have to go to a real school to get his degree. He has to get his degree in Luciferianism, and he's going to let you know that.
Well, that reading's for dummies. Nobody does that. I'm going to go back to school. I told my mom, I said when I had some free time on my hand that I would go head back and I would finish up. So that's what I'm going to do.
It's just, I could have sworn that you told me that you finished college.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? Kevin Hart states that he told his mother that he was going to go back to school. Now, his agent says, I thought that you told me that you finished college already.
I'm not talking about college, Trina. I'm talking about high school.
Now, brothers, listen to that. Does that make sense? He says, I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about high school. Why would he have to go back to high school if he's already graduated college? Unless the high school in this episode is going to be a metaphor for something else that he has to achieve, a degree that he has to achieve in something else. Okay, so now, brothers, we fast forwarded in the episode to where Kevin Hart is now going back to his quote unquote high school. Pay attention to what the name of the high school is. It is called Morning Star High School. What is that in reference to? Now, there are certain gainsayers who might say, well, one of the pseudonyms for Christ is the bright and the morning star. Well, it's not talking about Christ when it says the morning star. When it says the morning star here, it's speaking about Lucifer, as he's detailed in Isaiah, the 14th chapter, who's known as the son of the morning. As I tell you, brothers, all the time, there's a Christ on the right-hand side, meaning an anointed one on the right-hand side. And there's also a Christ on the left-hand side for the nations and those of Israel who are not of the elect. He goes by various names, whether it be Bacchus or Phaethon or Tithonus or Phoronius or Jupiter or Zeus or what have you, Heru, Adonis, so on and so forth. He has many names. We're going to see in this episode that Kevin Hart is letting you know that he knows that he has to ascend to a higher degree in Luciferianism / Masonry in order for him to attain what he wants to attain in the entertainment industry. And they've let him know, they've told him already, this is what you need to do. And you're bucking up against the system. This is why they're playing with him when it comes to hosting the Oscars. Also pay attention, I'm not quite sure if you guys can see this, but on the four corners of this sign, there's the hexagon, which is symbolic of the cube of Saturn.
Today I return to Morning Star High School to finally get my diploma.
Now, brothers, have you ever heard of a high school called Morning Star? Morning Star High School? Like, it's clear as day what this episode is actually about. I mean, if you pay very close attention and you watch it diligently.
During my senior year, I accidentally killed the school mascot and I got expelled. That's right. I became the most hated man in school history. But it wasn't my fault. I mean, nobody told that albino goat to eat that grass.
Hey, brothers, you hear that? He said the school mascot is an albino goat. He's going to Morning Star High School, which is code for Lucifer, and the goat is the mascot of the school. Now, look at this still shot right here. This is Kevin entering the high school. As you can see, and I tell this to brothers all the time to pay very close attention, especially when they're trying to convey certain messages. They have Kevin in the green shirt, and the jacket that he's wearing has the image of a tree or of a palm tree on both sides of the jacket. That's to show him as Tammuz, the vegetation goddess, or Heru. Once again, this episode is about him showing his sponsors that he knows that he must show the appropriate amount of obeisance or obeying the conventions of the industry. That being that he must bow down to and venerate the mother goddess and the father god, that being the goat god.
That cannon blew that goat's head clean off. Sure did. But Trinidad made for some good eating, I tell you that.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? The name of the goat mascot is Trinidad. The name Trinidad, for those of you who don't know, means Trinity. Okay? The Trinity of the Hollywood entertainment industry is the father god, the mother goddess, and their son. The composite is the goat god known as the Baphomet.
Yeah, Grandma straight Steph Curry that goat. We ate the shit out that goat. Anyway, the school lost every game since then, but that was 20 years ago. Well, now I'm a big star, and I can't wait to feel the love for my almost smile.
Kevin Hart, right?
Hey, oh. Hey, listen now, I ain't gonna have it.
Now, brothers, right now he's entered into the Luciferian school of instruction on how to properly worship the morning star. As he's already laid out, he did not graduate from this school, meaning what? He showed that he was not willing to do certain things, practice certain rituals in order to get to the highest level. So now the other students are mocking him. This is what happens in the entertainment industry for those who are in the craft, but for some reason are not willing to do certain things, whether it be pederasty or blood drinking or cannibalism, etc., zoophilia. Once they get to the higher levels of what they call the Bacchanalian or the Orphic mysteries or the Osirian mysteries, whatever you want to call them, basically the veneration of Baal / Nimrod / Asar or Osiris, your peers will mock you. They won't work with you. They won't cast you in their movies. I believe that is what this scene is meant to show in a metaphorical form. Okay, so brothers, we've jumped ahead in this video yet again. Kevin Hart is trying to appease many of the professors / teachers in the Morning Star High School. He has no real intention of taking the classes. He just wants to buy his way into a diploma / degree. What I believe that's metaphorical for is the fact that he does not want to fully immerse himself into many of the mystery school practices and rituals that many of the other celebrities do. He just wants to put on a good show. As we can see here, there's a teacher here whose hand he's shaking. After the teacher steps to the side, once again, they're going to reveal who the true God, quote unquote God of the entertainment industry is and why Kevin is there. Let's pay very close attention.
Let's go buy some grades. Thanks for that, Amos Saraki. Here's your stacky. You go spending all that at the strip club. Thank you, man.
Now, brothers, look very closely. As we can see in the trophy case here, there's going to be an emblem. We see the 5-pointed star upright. The 5-pointed star upright, or the pentagram as it's called, is for the Mother Goddess. And written over it, we see the words Great Goat. I hope that you brothers are paying attention and that you're seeing what's there on the screen. As a matter of fact, one of the awards, or one of the trophies, I should say, is of the quote-unquote fallen angel Lucifer. And that's part of their Babylonian mystery school system. They believe that their god Lucifer is an angel that fell from heaven, who they worship in various forms, whether it be as the sun, or as a bull, or as a goat, or what have you, or as a vegetation god, or as a whore of Babylon archetype, the mother goddess archetype. But pay very close attention in the background here. It says the great goat. See that? 5-pointed star upright. Over it is the word great written in dark blue. And then goat is in gold yellow. Why is that? Because they're showing you that the quote unquote goat god and the sun god are relatively synonymous. Okay? Once again, this is why Kevin Hart had to go to Morning Star High School. He has to get his final degree. As Albert Pike, the preeminent Mason of the 1800s or the mid to late 1800s stated, the god of the Masons is Lucifer, aka the goat god Pan. All right. Okay, so now, brothers, this is a very essential scene in this episode right here. Another essential / pivotal scene. That being the introduction of the quote unquote mother goddess archetype. Except this is going to be in her manifestation as the goddess of love or of sex per se, as Ishtar or Aphrodite or Aset. Please understand that the mother goddess has two sides. She has a light side and she has a dark side. The light side is as the goddess of love and sex and comfort and so on and so forth. The dark side is as a destroyer goddess, where she's known as Sekhmet or Kali, etc. And that's found in every culture, whether it's Sumerian or the Kemetic culture or ancient Rome, ancient Greece, etc. The mother goddess always has those two sides, the quote-unquote light or benevolent side and the quote-unquote dark or malevolent side. Right now, we're seeing the benevolent manifestation. This is Kevin Hart, who's playing metaphorical or proverbial Heru / Tammuz / Adonis, approaching his mother / wife. Of course, as a mother, she cannot play his literal mother in this episode, so they have her posing as a teacher. And the mother goddess is also cast in the pagan mystery school system as a master teacher, a goddess of wisdom. So now he must appease her, but he's also going to show his attraction, as he must in the Hollywood mystery school system. Once again, he has to bow down to the mother goddess. So let's see what happens here. Also pay attention to the color of her blouse. That's also going to pay dividends at the end of this episode. She's wearing a sun yellow blouse. Please remember that.
Keisha Turner. You see, back in the day, Keisha used to have a little thing for me. And I used to have a big thing for her. She was going to be my homecoming date, but I got expelled, so I couldn't do it. I'm willing to bet she hasn't gotten over me. I know she hasn't. Would you get over this?
Now, brothers, every once in a while they have these little interruptions where Kevin Hart interjects with a little pseudo-comedy. It's not really comedy. He's interjecting to try to put a comedic spin on what he has to do in the entertainment industry. And as we saw him in the green before to represent him as the vegetation goddess, right now he's wearing the blue shirt to show himself as a Saturnian, or someone who is showing his association with the Capricorn. Remember, the Capricorn or Capricornus is the astrological sign that's associated with the planet Saturn, or the ice planet. So red represents fire and rebirth and rejuvenation and its association with the sun. Blue represents Saturn, or the ice planet. We're going to see that. We're going to see the reason why he has on the blue shirt in a minute. But please just pay very close attention to that.
Keisha! Girl! Look at you! Give me a hug.
Who do you think you are, buying off teachers?
It's the biggest comedian in the world.
Brothers, when she asks him, who do you think you are buying off teachers? She's talking about a lot of the priests and the priestesses who we call top actors and top singers, because on television, that's how they appear to the masses. They appear as just top rappers and top singers. But behind closed doors, they're the ones who have to officiate many of these rituals. They're the ones who are instructing people who are low-level initiates or lower-level initiates in the Hollywood mystery school system. People like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Will Smith, so on and so forth. They're the ones who are knee-deep in the Bacchanalian rituals. They love the orgies. They love a lot of the other aspects of it. That's why they're always compensated by being glorified and being afforded opportunities that other people cannot get. But once again, just pay very close attention here. The dynamic, even though, from a basic level or two-dimensional level, is a teacher confronting the student. This is really the mother goddess, aka Aurora, confronting her son Phaethon. Please remember that. Please keep that in mind. Aurora is the mother goddess, the goddess of the dawn. She was often associated with the sun.
Man that you used to be in love with back in high school?
See, if you had told that joke on your What Now tour, someone might have laughed.
That's funny. How about this, babe? How about we patch all this up over dinner? Let's discuss you giving me an A, me giving you the D. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got that. I already got the D. I'm disgusted. Look, Kevin, I can't be bought. Keep your money and your Get Hard posters. I used to love Will Ferrell.
As humorous as they're trying to spin this, once again, brothers, this is supposed to be an interaction between his mother, who he's trying to make his wife. That's part of the pagan mystery school system. Heru was the son of Aset, and he was also her husband. Heru has to win his mother over. Another film where you see that, and I might cover this down the line, and I mentioned this in another video a long time ago. For you brothers who've ever seen the film Back to the Future, Marty McFly played another Horus archetype in that film, with the character of Doc Brown playing Tahuti, the great scientist and advisor. Remember, Horus was a god of time, quote-unquote god of time. And we also saw in that film his father, George, was the Asar character, or the Osiris character. And the mother, Lorraine, was Isis or Aset. That's why the love triangle, once again, was mother and son, mother and husband. Right? They slip that into these films constantly because they use the stories, or the quote-unquote mythological renderings from the ancient world, as kind of like the spinal column for their movies today. And a lot of people don't know that or understand that. Okay, so now, brothers, this is going to be the introduction of the destroyer aspect or the destructive aspect of the mother goddess. Once again, is wrapped within a humorous or comical metaphor. But brothers, please pay very close attention, because it's going to come together by the end of this episode what this entire thing was actually about. Now, this person here, she's not the most comely sister in the world. Unfortunately for her, she has to play the role of the destroyer goddess. So they wanted to make sure that she was not particularly physically appealing per se. She's going to confront Kevin Hart and claim that he broke her heart because he broke a promise to her that he made back in high school. But that's just an analogy for how the son broke the heart of the mother. Please keep in mind that one of the emblems of the boy or the child aspect of the quote-unquote Trinity is the heart. And they oftentimes play off that with this person, Kevin Hart, in the industry. So let's pay very close attention to their interaction.
Well, well, well. If it ain't the man that ruined my life.
What are you talking about?
It's Tasha Brinsky.
Okay, now was that a boom or was that your footstep?
Oh, don't make me you up, Kevin. You left me datingless at the homecoming.
What you need to be worried about is who the hell left you toothless.
You cry shit. Oh, it's a drink like a gun. COVID, take a drink. I didn't always look like this. Tired and worn out. Back in the day before Kevin Hart broke my heart, I actually looked like this.
Now, brothers, do you see this? This is why I told you to pay very close attention to the color of the blouse that the other female was wearing, because they're actually the same entity. They're both a mother goddess. It's just that one represents the light side, who's always attractive, beautiful, the goddess of sex, the goddess of marriage, so on and so forth. She goes by various names, whether it's Inanna or Parvati or Ishtar or Easter or Astarte, so on and so forth, Aphrodite. The quote-unquote negative side or the destructive side goes by various names as well, as I've already laid out: Sekhmet or Rhea or Kali, so on and so forth. That's the aspect that this person is playing. But the reason why they put her in the yellow blouse of the same shade as the very attractive teacher is because they're trying to convey to you, they're trying to show you subliminally that there are two sides